Good evening, this is VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, VK3 EKH, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria with the regular Friday night broadcast. Coming to you from the studios of VK3 CSJ in Narre Warren South. Very pleasant, good evening to you all, and trust everybody is okay. We're broadcasting on prime frequency of 3541 kilohertz in the 80 meter amateur radio band, and streaming on YouTube on my YouTube channel. Just search VK3CSJ, look for the live symbol. Hopefully the stream won't fall over halfway tonight. And unfortunately the repeater has decided to go to sleep on us. RTV repeater, television repeater. It was working about half an hour ago or so, but it's decided to go to sleep. We're trying to get it up and running, so I'm keeping an eye on the output. If it suddenly becomes awake, I'll start transmitting on TV. But we are streaming on YouTube, so there's a few images to show tonight as normal. A couple of videos. We've got a report from Tamitha Scove, 5-minute report she's put up, so we'll run with that in a short while, and also another little video footage too, which I'll be getting into in a short moment or two. Anyway, you'll have to bear with me tonight because I've come down with COVID this week. Very first time that I've been hit with that bug. I've managed to not get it over the last 3 years. Somehow I've managed to do the right thing and not get it. But somehow this time last week, not this time, but last week at some stage, I must have picked it up. Some bugger gave it to me, and here it is. I've been off work all this week in isolation, which hasn't been an easy thing, considering that you can't go anywhere, as in go out in the car to pick up groceries or anything like that. It's been a bit of a pain. But I think I'm over it, in the sense that I've gone past the peak of it. Temperature got up as far as 39 degrees at one stage on Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's now in remission. And it's just a pain behind the eyes that's a bit of annoying. So I have to go back to work on Monday, so I'm hoping that I'll be in a better state, but I'm not really too sure at this stage how that's going to pan out. So there it is, COVID. I can tell you what for a surety that COVID exists. Not that I was one that denied that, but I managed to get by without getting it until now, so there it is. Anyway, so I'm sounding a bit nasally, and I might end up falling asleep halfway through an article, so forgive me on that one. G'day to Richard on Discord there, and Mitch, VK3ZT, and Martin, VK7JH on Discord chat window. Very good. And we also have an email address too, if anybody wishes to send signal reports. VK3EKH@gmail.com. Alright, I'll just get straight into a few things here. The Astronomical Society of Victoria, of which this broadcast is on behalf of, was founded in 1922 and has well over 1,600 members. Membership of the Society is open to all persons with an interest in astronomy. The Society's objectives are to encourage the study and practice of astronomy, and to disseminate the knowledge of the science, and to provide greater facilities for the study among its members. Monthly meetings are usually held on the second Wednesday of each month, except in January, with the latter being held on a Saturday night. Meetings start at 8 p.m. at the Mullior Hall, Burwood Avenue, Melbourne, near the Melbourne Observatory, which is located not too far from the Shrine of Remembrance. And of course, the Shrine of Remembrance will be a place to be tomorrow morning, with Remembrance Day happening tomorrow. So a very special day. Parking is available in Burwood Avenue, Dells Brooks Drive and surrounding streets. Admission is free and visitors are most welcome. In fact, let me just check the calendar on ASV's website. I just want to see what's happening this coming Wednesday. Where are we? I used to be able to find things quickly on this. Why isn't it there? That should be it. Calendar. Where is it? There it is. Finally. Okay, so the monthly meeting, 8th. What's the day? It was last Wednesday. Okay. All right. So the monthly meeting has come and gone. But last Wednesday, they had an interview with an astrophysicist, Steph Bernard. He's not only the ASV's ambassador, but also an astrophysicist and at the School of Physics, University of Melbourne, where she teaches first-year astrophysics and is a learning facilitator and ScienceWorks Museum Planetarium. Steph is also an educator for the Victorian Space Science Foundation Centre, and in this Astro Talk we get up close and personal with Steph and chat with her about her journey into the world of science and astronomy, as well as ask her all the hard-hitting questions about what is happening in the world of astronomy and science, and join us in person for this in-depth chat with ASV Ambassador. So that was last Wednesday, and I suspect that it was streamed to YouTube, which means that there will be a recording of that interview on the ASV's YouTube website. So if you missed this particular presentation last Wednesday, you can catch up with it. And I would imagine that you should be able to catch up with it, the recording of it, by looking at the ASV's YouTube channel. G'day Steve, VK3SPX has joined the chat window. Alright, so there it is. Privileges of membership include the right to borrow books, periodicals and other publications from the Society's extensive library located at Melbourne Observatory. Access is available to telescopes on members' nights held regularly at the Melbourne Observatory and after the monthly meetings, weather permitting. These instruments include the Society's 300mm equatorial reflector and a 300mm portable reflector. There's also a 200mm refractor managed by the Royal Botanic Gardens, and a photoheliograph are also housed at the observatory. The Society has a number of 200mm reflectors available for short period loan under the ASV's telephone loan scheme, so members can try before they buy. Members are also encouraged to make use of the Society's country property located near Heathcote, some 90-minute drive of Melbourne. There are a range of instruments available for members to use, with the larger two requiring training. Also located on the site is a fully steerable 8.5 metre radio telescope, which members can be involved with through involvement with the radio astronomy section. Members are encouraged to make and use telescopes. Advice and help on both matters are provided willingly to newcomers desiring to do the same. Other areas of interest that members can participate in include deep sky observing, astrophotography, lunar and planetary observing, auroral, meteor, comet, radio astronomy, computing, cosmology and astrophysics, historical studies and research in general. Contact details for various section directors are provided in the yearbook. Further information may be obtained by visiting the ASV website at www.asv.org.au. That's www.asv.org.au. Further information and that, yes, events are given in the Crux Extra Bulletin. The Crux Extra Bulletins are email bulletins that get sent out every other week to members, just to keep us abreast of what's going on. ASV will conform to any government health directives. ASV events may be required to be cancelled, moved or postponed. You can write directly to the ASV by writing to the Secretary, Astronomical Society, Victoria, GPO Box 1059, Melbourne, Victoria 3001. Otherwise, all information should be obtained by going to the ASV's website. Right, you're tuned to ASV Radio. Alright, the repeater's still off air, so we're flying solo tonight. Well, not quite, not totally. Anyway, I'll just quickly run through some of the sky notes provided by Tanya Hill, the planetarium. I got halfway through them last week, so let's see where I think we kicked off 15th of November 1738, discoverer of Uranus and infrared radiation, William Herschel, is born. On the 14th of November 2003, Sedena, a TNO, trans-Newtonian object, Neptunian object is the right way of saying that. Neptunian object is discovered in a 11,400 year long elongated orbit, one of the most distant objects known in the solar system. Sedena, SEDNA, a trans-Neptunian object. Yeah. On the 16th of November 1965, Venera 3 is launched to Venus, becoming the first probe to reach the surface of another world. Also on the 16th of November 1974, first radio message sent into space from the Puerto Rico Arecibo telescope. It was called the Arecibo message to star cluster M13. 25,000 light years away, took 3 minutes to transmit. Not that it took 3 minutes to get to M13, but it took 3 minutes to transmit. Talk about sublight communications. It's 1,679 binary ones and zeros, if arranged in 23 columns and 73 rows, will reveal visual information. Prime numbers 23 by 73 equals 1,679. And of course we know that Carl Sagan and Frank Drake had a lot to do with that. And I'm going to give a bit of a dedication to good old Carl Baby in just a second. The 17th of November 1970, Lunokhod 1 Moonwalker, USSR, first remote-controlled moon rover delivered by lander Luna 17. It drove 10 kilometres and lasted 321 Earth days, far longer than the expected 3 months. That was back in 1970. Some things worked in those days. 20th of November 1998, the first module for the International Space Station, Russia's 12-metre Zyru, which is Sunrise, or functional cargo block, is launched, beginning a multi-module, multi-year assembly of the space station in low Earth orbit. On the 26th of November 2012, the Curiosity rover arrives in Mars' Gale crater after a high-speed entry and first use of an innovative final landing technique, the sky crane. On the 27th of November 1971, first probe to reach the Martian surface is Mars 2 USSR, although it crashes in the process. Also on the 27th of November 2001, first probe to reach... No, I've already said that. The 27th of November 2001, first detection of composition of exoplanet's atmosphere by Hubble telescope for planet Osiris, orbiting the Sun-like star 150 light years away. On the 28th of November 1967, Cambridge postgraduate student Susan Jocelyn Bell discovers the first pulsar, dubbed Little Green Men 1, LGM1. Its regular 1.3 second radio pulse revealed to be a rapidly spinning neutron star, the first of many to be identified. On the 29th of November 1967, Australia becomes the first nation after the USSR, USA and France to launch a satellite from its own territory. A 45 kilogram WEASAT-1, which stands for Weapons Research Establishment Satellite, made 642 polar orbits until re-entry 11 days later. And then finally, on the 30th of November 1609, Galileo studies the moon with his improved telescope, and while not the first to do so, he was the first to explain mountains and craters and chart lunar features and their heights. And lastly, also on the 30th of November 1954, Anne Elizabeth Hodges of Alabama, USA, becomes the first person injured by a meteorite. She was badly bruised by a 5 kilogram rock that crashed through her roof, deflected off a radio cabinet, and hit her while she was asleep on the couch. So it's nowhere is it safe. All right, that was the last of the Sky Notes for November. Thank you, Tanya, for all that. You're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, the official station of the Astronomical Society of Victoria, with the regular Friday night broadcast. Now, Carl Sagan was born in November 9, yesterday, 1934, 89 years ago. If he was still alive, he'd be 89. He'd be an old codger, but he most likely would still be having a few words to say about the way things are in this world, no doubt. But unfortunately he passed away on December 20, 1996. And actually I've got a picky here, which I'll bring up. There he is, Mr. Carl Sagan. And I'll just insert me there. So his best known scientific contribution is his research on the possibility of extraterrestrial life, including experimental demonstration of the production of amino acids from basic chemicals by radiation, which you saw being talked about in Cosmos. He assembled the first physical message sent into space, mentioned before, the Pioneer plaque and the Voyager Golden Record, which were universal messages that could potentially be understood by any extraterrestrial intelligence that might find them. He argued in favour of the hypothesis, which has since been accepted, that the high surface temperatures of Venus are a result of the greenhouse effect. Initially an assistant professor at Harvard, Sagan later moved to Cornell, where he spent most of his career. He published more than 600 scientific papers and articles and was author, co-author and editor of more than 20 books. He wrote many popular science books such as The Dragons of Eden, Broca's Brain, Pale Blue Dot, and The Demon Haunted World. He also co-wrote and narrated the award-winning 1980 television series Cosmos, A Personal Voyage. And if you haven't seen that, I highly recommend it. It's just goes for 13 episodes, but it is a very educational thing, and which became the most widely watched series in history of American public television. Cosmos has been seen by at least 500 million people in 60 countries. A book also called Cosmos was published to accompany the series. Sagan also wrote a science fiction novel published in 1985 called Contact, which became the basis for a 1997 film of the same name, one of my favourite sci-fi films. His papers, comprising 595,000 items, are archived in the Library of Congress. Sagan was a popular public advocate of skeptical scientific inquiry and the scientific method. He pioneered the field of exobiology and promoted the search for extraterrestrial intelligent life, SETI. He spent most of his career as a professor of astronomy at the Cornell University, where he directed the Laboratory for Planetary Studies. Sagan and his works received numerous awards and honours, including the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal, the National Academy of Sciences Public Welfare Medal, the Pulitzer Prize for General Non-Fiction for his book The Dragons of Eden, and for Cosmos, A Personal Voyage, 2 Emmy Awards and a Peabody Award and a Hugo Award. He married 3 times and had 5 children after developing myelodysplasia, which is a bone condition. Sagan died of pneumonia at the age of 62 on December 20, 1996. And whenever you watch the film Contact, there's a little dedication to him at the very, very end of the film, where Robert Zemeckis, who directed the film, made the film, puts up a star field and just has Foucault in the bottom right-hand part of the screen. I always tear up when I see that. Oh, the repeater is back on air. All right, looks like we can hit the repeater. I'll just hang on a sec. Let me just see if I can get this repeater going for me. So bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, while I see if I can get a picture running. There it is. Yep. Okay. Oh, there I am. I am on. All right, and I think Ian might have had something to do with that. Thank you, Ian, Mr. QL. And I know that Richard VK3VRS was working in the background as well to get that repeater running. So we are up on VK3RTV, Digital Channel 1, HD. And I don't know whether BATC is there or not. But anyway, good evening, viewers. Finally, that's good. Thank you to Ian, I think, who might have got that running. I'm not sure, but he's there on RTV too, I can see that. All right, now, I'm going to segue now from all that business on Carl Sagan. As it was his birthday yesterday, like I say, he would have been 89. I'm going to just play his little bit on the pale blue dot. Let me just make sure I've got things right here. The pale blue dot, he managed to convince NASA, I mean, he was all working on the team anyway, but he managed to convince the people at NASA to turn Voyager's cameras back towards Earth. Voyager 1 at the time was 6 billion kilometres away, and what he wanted to do was to see, before Voyager left the solar system, he wanted one more view looking back towards Earth, and an image was taken of the general look back towards Earth, and the image that was received shows Earth as a little speck of light, and because the camera when it was turned around to look at Earth, was very, very close to the sun. A lot of the light that's streaming across the image from the bottom of the image to the top is basically because it's proximity to the sun. And there was a lot of flare, lens flare, I guess you could call it. But it just so happened that one of the streams of light, or shafts of light, that was photographed happens to pick up Earth in its beam of light, and it's what makes it a more poignant image, is the stream of light that's highlighted through where our little pale blue dot is located. So the image was taken on the 14th of February 1990, I think it was, 1990, 14th of February 1990. And Carl Sagan was moved by the image. And in 1994, he penned a little thing called Pale Blue Dot. And I've got him speaking this, so let me just bring that up there, and have a listen to this for about 3 minutes. It goes for. Let me just get that ready.
That's here. That's home. That's us. On it, everyone you love, everyone you know, everyone you ever heard of, every human being who ever was, lived out their lives. The aggregate of our joy and suffering, thousands of confident religions, ideologies, and economic doctrines, every hunter and forager, every hero and coward, every creator and destroyer of civilization, every king and peasant, every young couple in love, every mother and father, hopeful child, inventor and explorer, every teacher of morals, every corrupt politician, every superstar, every supreme leader, every saint and sinner in the history of our species lived there, on a mote of dust, suspended in a sunbeam. The Earth is a very small stage in a vast cosmic arena. Think of the rivers of blood spilled by all those generals and emperors, so that in glory and triumph they could become the momentary masters of a fraction of a dot. Think of the endless cruelties visited by the inhabitants of one corner of this pixel on the scarcely distinguishable inhabitants of some other corner. How frequent their misunderstandings, how eager they are to kill one another, how fervent their hatreds. Our posturings, our imagined self-importance, the delusion that we have some privileged position in the universe, are challenged by this point of pale light. Our planet is a lonely speck in the great enveloping cosmic dark. In our obscurity, in all this vastness, there is no hint that help will come from elsewhere to save us from ourselves. The Earth is the only world known so far to harbor life. There is nowhere else, at least in the near future, to which our species could migrate. Visit? Yes. Settle? Not yet. Like it or not, for the moment, the Earth is where we make our stand. It has been said that astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience. There is perhaps no better demonstration of the folly of human conceits than this distant image. To me, it underscores our responsibility to deal more kindly with one another and to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, the only home we've ever known.
microphone. Happy birthday, Carl Sagan. And I just wish he was still around. All right, you're tuned to ASV Radio, VK3 Echo Kilo Hotel, official station of the Astronomical Yearbook. The Astronomical Society. That one, that'll do. Okay, so there it is. Now, I can see it's already 10:30. I'm not with it. Anyway, here's an interesting little article which I found last week. And let me just get rid of that first. I've been monitoring myself through the headphones, and I shall just put that there so I can have a better feed. And visions are all okay. Good. Now, this was published 7 days ago, and I think anybody who is familiar with the objects in the sky and their names would think that the Magellanic clouds, would be safe in their terms of being called a name. But it seems that the Magellanic clouds must be renamed, astronomers say, or someone is saying. And I thought, my goodness me, it's if Pluto is being kicked around like it is, then how easy it must be to go around changing names. Although, anyway, let's just read this article out and see what it's all about. Ferdinand Magellan, who murdered and enslaved indigenous people, was not an astronomer, nor the clouds' discoverer. In September, astronomer Mia de los Reyes published an open-ended or op-ed, not sure what that is actually, in the journal APS Physics, representing a coalition of astronomers calling for the renaming of the two iconic, deeply studied and shining irregular galaxies near the Milky Way. One of these star-studded realms is named the Large Magellanic Cloud, and the other, for reasons you'd probably expect, is named the Small Magellanic Cloud. But most importantly, what these two satellite galaxies have in common is they're named after Ferdinand Magellan. Ferdinand Magellan. Right, and I've got a picture here too, which I'll throw up. There it is there. There's the two galaxies in question. I'll just throw my insert there. Among other things, Magellan has gone down in history as the Portuguese explorer who murdered, enslaved and burned the homes of indigenous people while setting out to be the first person to circumnavigate the globe. As de los Reyes' article states, a first-hand account of Magellan's journey describes how he enslaved the native Taluchi people, for instance, who lived in what is now Argentina, and placed iron manacles on the youngest and best proportioned men. He also recorded to have set entire villages ablaze in the region we now call Guam. Magellan had his own personal slave as well, Encre de Melsa, who he'd purchased before the journey and relied on to interpret indigenous languages. In fact, experts argue I'm not sure how you pronounce it, Enrique del Machili's presence on the trip technically made him the first person to circumnavigate the globe after Magellan was killed in a fight with islanders in the Philippines. Lapu, the Mactan ruler, whose forces killed Magellan, is often credited with slaying the explorer after run-ins with indigenous locals, according to National Geographic, though it's possible he didn't literally do the deed himself. Still, as a result, has become a national hero in the Philippines. So, knowing all this, the recently announced coalition finds no reason Magellan, who was also not an astronomer, should be the namesake of the LMC and SMC galaxies. And this particular topic is something the author has been thinking about since learning about these galaxies. And Delos Rees, who is an assistant professor of astronomy at Amherst College, told Space.com, I'm Filipino-American and Magellan is an infamous figure in Filipino history, so this has always been at the back of my mind, she says. And beyond being a colonizer, a slaver and a murderer, as Delos Rees writes, and I assume he might be a guy, I don't know, might be a bloke, writes in the opt-end, astronomers also agree he has not even the first to identify these clouds. So Magellan was murderous and awful, but that isn't the primary issue. David Hodge, a professor of physics and data science at New York University and group leader of astronomical data at the Flatiron Institute, told Space.com, the primary issue is that the clouds aren't his discovery. And the words large Magellanic Cloud and small Magellanic Cloud are incredibly common in the field of astronomy, as these sparkling realms are considered some of the best cosmic laboratories in which to study star formation. Not only are the clouds teeming with stellar bodies, but because they sit so close to our galaxy, scientists are even able to investigate individual stars lying within. These satellite galaxies are also the only systems we clearly see hosting star clusters, as every stage of evolution, several thousands of peer-reviewed academic articles mention results gleaned from the LMC and SMC. This also means several thousands of peer-reviewed academic articles referred to Magellan, over 17,000, Rees calculates. Per a 2020 publication in the European Southern Observatory's Journal for Science and Technology, the Messenger, local populations in South America already knew of these clouds well before Magellan's expedition. The Portuguese called them clouds of the Cape. Author Michael Denfield writes, and scientific circles used the names Nubicula Minor and Nubicula Major. What is that word? Nubicula Minor and Nubicula Major. German lawyer and amateur astronomer John Bayer also invented the first modern star atlas, Urinometra, in 1603, and also used the latter, Urinometra. It turns out that the Magellanic name wasn't even widely attached to these galaxies until well into the 1800s, which was centuries after Magellan's expeditions. So Sally Owie, a professor of astronomy at the University of Michigan, told Space.com, pretty much every astronomer I've talked to is supportive. Criticisms seem to be primarily from vocal minority of the general public. And Delos Rees said, I've gotten a few emails from folks who don't appear to be astronomers telling me to go back to doing science, or that this is wokenism, as they say, and that kind of thing. It doesn't seem to occur to these folks that nomenclature is part of the science. So one of the more recent and highly publicised requests to rename an astronomy-related object concerns the James Webb Space Telescope. In March of 2021, several months before the James Webb Space Telescope launched to space, scientists published an article in Scientific America about the alleged backstory of the telescope's namesake, James Webb, who ran NASA's between February 1961 to October 1968. In that article, authors wrote that Webb was in part responsible for a policy that allowed for the purging of LGBT individuals from the workforce, an event now dubbed the Lavender Scar. In an 87-page report, NASA described its own investigation into the subject as a response, and the agency found no available evidence directly links Webb to any actions or follow-up related to firing of individuals for their sexual orientation. According to an official statement, the name was not changed. If we're going to fault James Webb for the Lavender Scar, we would have to change the names of a lot of other things and a lot of buildings. University of South Florida historian David Johnson, who wrote a book about the Lavender Scar, told Space.com following the report, highlighting NASA's Johnson Kennedy Space Centers, saying none of these people were particularly active in persecuting homosexuals, but just like Webb, they were there then this policy was in effect. In the APS Delos Rees writes about new nuances of the James Webb Space Telescope's remaining as well, and stating that there will always be complications in naming monuments or facilities after individuals. In a letter to the American Astronomical Society, following the James Webb Telescope naming conclusion, current NASA Administrator Bill Nielsen said that the agency is updating the processes of naming missions and buildings. People are not perfect, Delos Rees said, and social standards will have to change. It's also worth mentioning that many astronomical items beside the LMC and SMC are named after Magellan, including a lunar crater and Martian crater named Magellan-Higgins, as well as NASA's Magellan mission launched spacecraft to Venus in the 80s. So one idea to get around the naming issue, Rees says, is to stop naming things after people altogether and take a note from the Mars rovers named after ideals, perseverance, opportunity, curiosity, sojourner, and spirit, for example. The other option, she says, it is a she. The other option, she says, is to name things after people who, to the best of our knowledge, embody the values that we as a society currently uphold, and to accept that our society progresses, which is a good thing. We will likely need to revisit these names. And the next generation of scientists, it would appear, will likely be attuned to this type of topics. Delos Rees says students in her astronomy classes are starting to ask questions about science that are beyond the theories and numbers surrounding things like what communities do we interface with and impact as we do science, and what historical and social structures enable us to do science, ? One of my students actually found my op-ed, thought it was interesting, and sent me a link without realizing that I wrote it. She said, I do think many students and early career researchers in general are more open to thinking about the ways that astronomy as a field of astronomers as people interact with the broader society. Delos Rees says that there are currently about 50 people in the Coalition Core mailing list, but the but the group continues to garner more support by the day. I can't imagine how any astronomer could object to renaming the clouds, Hogg said, since there is absolutely no sense in which Magellan is in any way responsible for their discovery. And though this isn't a public petition for the name change yet, De Los Rios says that that the cadre will soon be pushing for a resolution with the International Astronomical Union. It turns out that the getting astronomers to support changing the names is pretty easy, but getting them to agree on a new name is harder, she said, and we plan to suggest several options for the IAU to vote on. Some of those options could perhaps be to return to the calling of the LMC and SMC by their names Nubicular Major and Nubicular Minor, respectively, or inventing a Mars rover type format. And D. Rays, however, believes that the easiest way to probably just pick a new M word to the so scientists can continue using the acronyms LMC and SMC, meteorological meaning or of related to the southern hemisphere might be a good one, she said, or Milky, referring to the clouds associated with the Milky Way. And this is not a new topic. Rees said other astronomers have been thinking about this since before I even entered the field, she says, but I think that the time wasn't quite right to have this discussion. In the past few years, people have been having more discussions about renaming, and not just in astronomy, but also in the broader society. And we have more momentum now. And one of the main hurdles is that people can feel attached to tradition, but this name doesn't have a long tradition, very long tradition. There really isn't a strong reason to keep the name other than convenience. So there it is, the large and small Magellanic clouds are being targeted for renaming. And I think it's going to come down to what the International Union, Astronomical Union, decides upon. It's they're going to have to do the numbers and work out what's the best approach to it, other than what particularly what this article is homing in on. So anyway, we might end up seeing a different name approach to those two clouds you see on the screen there, which are visible from this part of the sky.